Hello there. Thanks for joining me today on Psychology for Today. New program that we're now in a series of 12 sessions on this topic of Psychology for Today. And I welcome you to be part of it, where I take psychological research and studies that have been done on a particular topic, review those, and then summarize them for you as the audience. That makes up our program. Now remember our last program, I talked about the healthy family. We looked at the research of what makes up a healthy family. And if you missed that program, I recommend that you go back one step and pick up Psychology for Today, the program preceding this particular one. And next week, our program, I'm going to talk about confidence, self-confidence, and how we build confidence in ourselves. But today, we're going to look at the issue of self-esteem. And I want you to kind of get that idea about who you are and what you are and how well you are and what you do and how you live your life in a positive way going forward. And think of yourself in a sense of a very positive person in a positive way. So self-esteem is our general topic. Now, let me just put this in perspective. There are three things that are part of life. We've always heard of two. We've always said that the thing that you're going to happen to you, you're going to die, and you're going to pay taxes. Those are the two things for sure that we're all going to experience in common. That's going to be a common experience. But let me add a third one to that, and that is the issue of stress. We all live with stress. You have your stress, I have my stress. Everybody has their own definition of stress and their own experience with stress. So stress is an experience that we all have in common, as we do with taxes and death and maybe a few other things in common as well. But when we talk about that kind of stress, we all have to deal with people who are harsh. We have to deal with people who are unkind. We have to deal with trauma. We have to deal with disappointment. We have to deal with hurt. We have to deal with excessive people who make excessive demands on our life. Well, there's all kinds of things that create stress. We have to have put downs. We have to experience that with people and so on. So there's all kinds of stresses that come into our life we have to deal with. So how do we do that? Well, we have to counterbalance that. We have to take these stresses in life and counterbalance it on the other end with things that I refer to as esteem. Now, there are two kinds of esteem. Let me just kind of put this into perspective as well. There's two kinds of esteem that I want you to kind of understand. One is interpersonal esteem. Interpersonal esteem is this. It's what I think you think of me. That's interpersonal esteem. And I can have an opinion that you think very poorly of me. Or I can have an opinion that I think you think very well of me and very positively of me. And all over the map, in between those, we develop this kind of an assumption of what people think of us. And then what we do is we act on that. We live on that. We follow that as a way of life, so to speak. That's not really fair. It's not really fair at all. Because what I think you think may not be correct. It may be partially correct. It may be to some degree correct. But it's not a correct way of life and living life and building your life on. That you somehow get this idea of what other people think of you. Maybe you need to ask people what they think of you. But you got to stop that idea about assuming that you know what other people think of you and then believing that and acting on that. So get rid of that idea. That kind of self-esteem is not a good one. So the self-esteem that we're going to be talking about now is what I think of myself. Just what I think of myself, how I view myself, how I view my world, how I relate to things, how I view the people around me, how I view my life patterns and my life story, and how I build my life story. That's self-esteem. And a far better way of living life is to make sure that you create a profile, you create a story of yourself that says you're a good person, you're a positive person, you're a person with hope, you're a person of faith, you're a person of ability, you're a person that has capabilities. You see, self-esteem is really that. It's the idea that you have self-respect, that you have self-admiration, That you have self-control. You bring a world of stress in your life and you manage it. You adopt the changes that take place in your life during the course of the day and the course of the week. We all have these kind of changes. We live on a sense of faith and a sense of hope. That's what self-esteem is all about. It's the idea of taking stress and managing it, having the skills to manage it in a positive way so that we come out of that stressful situation a winner. We come out as a positive way of living life and moving forward. So today we're going to look at this issue of self-esteem, and it's a very, very important one. But here's one of the key factors in self-esteem. The key factor is that of connecting. You can't have positive self-esteem unless you have people with whom you connect. Now, generally we think if you're connecting with your parents, you generally connect with your family, your siblings, with your relatives, with people in your immediate life. You connect with your teachers, you connect with a minister, you connect with friends. It's that idea of connecting. And that's the important thing that's in the area of self-esteem, that you have the ability to connect and that you have the opportunity, to connect. And then you reap the joy of having a connection with people in your life, as compared to not having any connections at all, where you're isolated, you're withdrawn, you're depressed, you're discouraged, you're lonely. That's the opposite. Self-esteem is that of connecting with people, having the courage to reach out and to connect and to meet people and to know people and to let people know you and let people come into your life. A research study was recently done that's a very important one to kind of understand, by the U.S. National Longitudinal Study of Adolescents and Healthy Adults. So they're not dealing with just children or with adolescents, but here's a study that's dealing with adolescents and dealing with adults, as well. And they did a study to see what the level of self-esteem was with the people in that particular study. And here's what they generally found. It's a very important finding. No matter what your race was, no matter what your color was, no matter what your ethnic background was, no matter what your religious background was, your sociological level of living, doesn't matter. Those don't matter. But really what mattered was that you connected as a child with somebody else in your life besides your parent. We call it the +1 connection. Sure, you want to connect with your family. That's important. But it's that connecting with somebody beyond your family, outside of your family, in addition to your family. That's where self-esteem gets built. And what they then went on to find out, that the people who had positive self-esteem do not commit suicide and don't even think about it, don't even talk about it. They also found that people who had positive self-esteem don't get into cigarette smoking and they don't get into marijuana smoking. They stay out of the drug world, if you will. They stay out of the alcohol world, as well. They were not known for violence. They avoided violence. And they did not engage in early premature sexual behavior. And then one other thing, they did well in school and work. When they worked, they did well. When they went to school, they did well. So self-esteem, if it's positive, results in positive behavior, positive experiences. And what it takes to have that kind of connection is one other person in your life besides your primary people, namely your family or your parents. So where do you connect with people? Where do you get this kind of connection? Well, we call that community. We call that community. Now, here's what community is for most people. For children, it's school. It's your family. It's your church. It's your social group. For adults, it's often a kind of a social group that they're part of, whether it be a tennis club or whether it be playing bridge or engaging in some kind of gaming activity on the video, but you're doing it interpersonally with somebody else. That's the +1 experience. Not to do it alone, but to connect with somebody else so that there's an interpersonal connection that makes a huge difference in your building of self-esteem and getting the benefits of that kind of self-esteem. So connect with your family, connect with gaming, friends that you might, but the people involved in it is what's important. Get involved in outings, get involved in social clubs, do all kinds of activities, but where people can connect with you, be there. And where you can connect with people, be there. I remember the situation with my son when he was in junior high and younger. My wife would try to connect with him and talk to him about schooling and different kind of issues. And she always found this, that if they took a drive in the car, they were going somewhere, he would talk and he would listen and he would interact. And she got much more connection with him in the car than she did at any other time. Now, we had good, positive relationships, but the car seemed to create that atmosphere of connecting, of talking, of opening up and revealing oneself and being open to ideas and discussion. That's what connection is all about. It's family life and it's people in your life, wherever you find them. Get into the connecting part of that. The plus one. You have a parent, that's good. You want plus one. You want somebody else in addition to the parent. Sometimes we refer to that person as a mentor. We refer to that kind of a person as a very close friend or a close friend of the family. A caring adult, if you will, in your life. Somebody who cares for you, somebody who thinks about you, somebody who shares in your experience, somebody who encourages you, somebody who supports you. I can go back in my life and I can remember in high school and junior high school and at other times I had caring adults in my life. I can remember through my college years and my graduate years of studies, I had caring professors in my life. I can go back and name 2 elementary school teachers that were caring in my life and cared for me and had a huge impact on my life and what I became and some of the skills that I developed. Because the teacher is one who cared. And there's a lot of research on that, by the way, showing that teachers, if they care, if they communicate the sense of commitment and caring for a student, interest in a student's life, that student does better than the teacher who doesn't care about it, who just teaches, just objectively teaches a subject matter. Those kids or that kid doesn't do as well. Kids do much better when a school teacher connects at an emotional level, at an interpersonal level, at a very supportive level. Those kids thrive and do well. And I can go back and name teachers and think about them, and maybe you can too. I encourage you to do that. Name the teachers in your life that have been there for you and have been supportive and encouraging to you in your life and your development and what you have now become, as an adult. So here we are looking at the issue of self-esteem. Not necessarily self-esteem for children, although that's very important. We need to develop self-esteem in every child. That needs to be a task that every parent takes on. Every friend of a child takes it on. Every teacher of a child takes it on. What can we do to build the self-esteem in a child? We want to do that. That's hugely important. But you need to do that to yourself as well. You need to develop the skills of developing your own self-esteem, enhancing yourself, being much more fresh and much more alive and alert and positive about yourself. Like yourself, respect yourself, enjoy yourself. Find the thing within you that gives you peace, that gives you joy, that gives you a happiness, that gives you a sense of fulfillment in life. That's what it's all about in self-esteem. You're responsible for your self-esteem, and if you're a parent, you're responsible for your child's self-esteem. And fathers particularly, by the way, carry a big impact upon a child's development of self-esteem. So dads, if you're in a situation where you got a child and you need to step up to the plate and make sure that you have conveyed that you value that kid, and that kid has value in a lot of different ways, and you help them identify with it and accept it and become part of a valued system within the family. So there you are. That's what self-esteem is all about. Now, what I'd like to do is this. I'd like to just direct you to a series of points that we can do as an individual to create self-esteem in ourselves, create self-esteem in our children, create self-esteem within our family life, our spouses and our children and friends and so on, that we can be a self-esteem builder What are the points? What are the 10 points that would be helpful if we followed them in building self-esteem in the sphere of life in which we find ourselves? So I'm going to take a minute, going to reposition myself, and I'd like you to kind of look at the quote, because it's a very important quote, that you have control over certain things. And look at it, and I'll be with you in just a minute. Okay, here we go. I'd like to talk about the building blocks of self-esteem. The building blocks. Now, I wrote about this in my book, which I have here in front of me, Doctor, Teach Me to Parent. I have a chapter devoted to this topic of self-esteem, building self-esteem, the building blocks of self-esteem. So what I would like you to do is be aware of that particular book, Doctor, Teach Me to Parent. You can obtain a copy of that from my office. You can obtain a copy of that from Barnes & Noble or from Amazon or from my website, www.booksbyhedberg.com. And that book is available, and it's a great book for you as a parent in dealing with children and a lot of different issues, anger and so on. And today we're going to focus on self-esteem. What are the building blocks of self-esteem? Now, like I said a minute ago, this is not just parent-child. This is also husband-wife, parents to children, but also you towards yourself and you towards other people in your life, no matter what age you are. There are self-esteem builders that you can become part of, and no matter what level of self-esteem you have today, you can increase that, you can improve that, you can enhance that by following certain guidelines that I just like to outline. Okay? Here's number one. Unearned acceptance. Unearned acceptance. You know, it's very simple to say, you know, I accept you, I like you, I have faith in you, I want you part of my life if you do certain things. And we say that to our child. You know, if you take out the garbage, if you do your chores, if you do your homework, you do this, you do that, then I will have a good relationship with you. Self-esteem doesn't put it on that kind of a term. We don't earn it. Self-esteem comes from being endowed with love and caring and acceptance. So unearned acceptance is really what the issue is all about in the development of self-esteem. You want to have opportunity to feel good about yourself. You don't want to earn it from somebody else. You want a husband and wife relationship where self-esteem just emerges and becomes part of your life, not because you're buying it or earning it in some kind of way. So think of the self-esteem as just unearned acceptance. You are accepted for who you are, you're accepted for what you are, you're accepted for what skills you have, you're accepted for just being part of a family, just being part of somebody's life, just being alive, just being part of home. That's unearned acceptance. Okay, here's number two. Find and fulfill your own purpose. Self-esteem comes when you land on purpose. It's like a helicopter and you come down, but you're going to come down on purpose. The question is, why were you born? Why were you born with the particular skill sets that you have? What's the purpose of those skill sets? How can you use those skill sets that you have? What is the meaning of the skill sets that you have as part of your life, that you were born with, and that you've learned, and you've earned, and you've acquired, and you've achieved certain status of ability? Find and fulfill it. Find that purpose. That's your job. That's your number one job. What is your purpose? And then get about fulfilling it. Live it out. Live according to that purpose. Make your occupation, make your job, make your relationships, make your marriage, make your family compatible to the purpose for which you were born and the purpose that you're trying to fulfill in your life as you help your family members fulfill their purpose. And you help your friends fulfill their purpose. And you help your spouse fulfill his or her purpose in life. It's purpose. In all ways, we've got to come down to what is my purpose, what is your purpose, and we need to work together to make sure we live by purpose and we fulfill the purpose that we have been born to fulfill. All right, here's number 3. Accomplishments are to be praised. Accomplishments are to be praised. You know, we accomplish things during the day. Sometimes that an accomplishment is great. It's very significant. Sometimes an accomplishment is just something very small, something very common and germane, and something that's not, great attention giver. But nonetheless, it was an accomplishment for you. It was important to you to have accomplished that particular task or to undertake that particular ability or responsibility or whatever it might be. Praise accomplishments. Now, there's 2 kinds of praise. One is that you get praise from others. You get praise from parents. You get praise from teachers. You get praise from spouses. You get praise from friends. That's important. Very, very important. When you accomplish that, other people recognize your accomplishments and praise you for it. But there's another one. That is, you have to praise yourself. You have to learn how to praise yourself. You have to enjoy the privilege of praising yourself for what you did and for what you accomplished and for what you tried, and you worked hard to accomplish something, and you did. Maybe you didn't accomplish it 100%, but maybe you accomplished it 82%. Who knows? But you accomplished something, and you praise yourself for that. You gotta develop the skill of self-praise to have self-esteem, because self-esteem comes from recognizing that you're a person of quality, you're a person of worth, you're a person of accomplishment, you're a person of value. Very, very critical that you accept that kind of responsibility. So there you are. Accomplishments are to be praised. Here's number 4. Measure progress. Measure your progress. If you are in a program of trying to learn and develop self-esteem, you make progress. Some days you don't make very much. Other days you make considerable progress. Some days you do something new and different you've never done before, and you're happy with that. You're glad you did that. That was a good thing that you just did. See, that's progress. When you try something and you achieve it, and you try it and you achieve it at least reasonably well, that's progress. Now let me just tell you this. We all heard the Bible verse, spare the rod and spoil the child. Comes from Proverbs. Now, the rod has 2 meanings, and I want you to understand the 2 meanings that it has. Number 1, the rod has a corrective measure. It was not used to beat and to abuse, but to correct a particular behavior of a child. That's why a rod was used, as we might spank with a hand or something of that nature, but not for abuse purposes, only for healthy learning purposes. Okay, that's one. But here's the other reason that rod is important to understand in that context of spare the rod and spoil the child, is this. The rod was a measuring stick. It's like we refer to them today as yardsticks or a ruler, so that you have a measure of distance. So a rod was referred to as a way to measure progress in the child's life, to measure progress in your life as a family, to measure progress in your life as an individual. It was a measuring stick so that you knew that a year ago you were here and now you're here. Or 2 weeks ago you were here and now you're here. It's a measuring stick. It helps you understand that you're making progress. And that's encouraging. That's supportive. That's what measuring sticks are all about. That you not just measure distance, but that you measure progress. You measure improvement in a life of an individual. So that's what that phrase means. Get a different view of it. Don't see it so negatively that many people, do. So yes, measure progress. Figure out ways to note that you are progressing along a line. You're doing better. You're doing much better than you were some time back. And then praise yourself for that and be encouraged by that. Be happy about that. Very, very important. Now, here's number 5. Abundantly. I want to put the emphasis on abundantly. Abundantly praise all progress. Sure, there's progress. Sometimes that progress is a little bit. Sometimes that progress is a lot. Sometimes that progress means a lot to you. Sometimes it means a lot to somebody else. Progress is important, obviously. But progress will be encouraged to continue if you abundantly praise the progress and the person who is progressing. Abundantly. That means over the top. That means in an excited kind of way. That means with great happiness. With great joy, I want to tell you that I notice the progress you've made and I'm happy for you, and I thank you for that. That's what abundant progress is all about. You share that joy, that happiness. You express it in your face. You express it in words. You express it in a hug. You express it in kindness. Abundantly praise all progress. And here's number 6, okay? I want you to affirm each family member for who they are and what they contribute. Now, that's a family context. Whether you're a child or a parent or you're an older child or you're a grandma or you're an aunt and uncle, whatever you are within the context of a family, affirm other family members. Affirm. Support them. Thank them. Encourage them. Affirm them for who they are. You're my son. You're my daughter. You're my grandma. You're my grandpa. And I want you to know that I am happy to be part of your life. But I'm also happy for the contribution you make to family life, the contribution you make into my life. I think of my grandkids, and I got 10 of them. The contribution that they each make in my life, they're all different. No two are the same. They're all different, but they all contribute to my life. And I thank each of them for the contribution that they make to my life. I hope that they do the same and accept the contribution that I make to their life and are thankful for it. But I know they do. I know they do. Very, very important that we recognize the contribution we give and make to each other, and then recognize that in a form of appreciation. So it all adds up into a positive way. Now here's number 7. Together, time is impactful. Time is impactful when things are done together. That means when you do something as a family, you're impacting each other. You're contributing to each other's life. You're making each other's life much happier and much more enduring and just solid and strength building and in esteem building. You see, together you have fun. That's playing games. That's eating at the kitchen table together. That's doing activities together as a family. That's going places together. Together is impactful. Just always remember, in the area of self-esteem, we build self-esteem in the presence of other people and in the companionship of other people. Very important that other people be drawn into our life where we can enjoy their contribution to our life and hopefully enjoy also the contribution that we make to their life. So together it's that togetherness. And the research shows this, and very, very clear research, that when you as a family sit down at the kitchen table together and you eat a meal together, you are contributing to the self-esteem of your children. If you sit at the kitchen table twice a week, you contribute much more to the life of your children. If you sit on that kitchen table 3 times a week, or 4 times a week, or 5 times a week, you contribute even more to the self-esteem building of your children. Self-esteem is built at kitchen tables. Use your kitchen table. Don't eat in front of the television. Don't eat on couches. Don't eat on the floor. Eat at a table where the family can come together, look each other in the eye, talk to each other, support each other, encourage each other, laugh with each other, become part of each other's life. Very, very important in the area of self-esteem building. So it's together time, wherever you have it. If you have it in your car when you're together and you're talking, playing games and talking, good. But we know from research that the dining room table, the kitchen table, is a self-esteem builder. And we want that to be part of your life, and we want that to be part of your children's life. And that's the way you build self-esteem also as an adult, because you're together. People contribute to you as you contribute to them. Okay, here's number 8. Catch all good behavior and celebrate it. The phrase is this: catch a child being good. Catch your wife being good. Catch your husband being good. Catch your friends being good. Catch your family being good. And then celebrate it. Notice the good that other people do. Be aware of the accomplishments of other people, the things that people do to make your life better, to contribute to family life, contribute to the home, contribute to the peace of the home. Anytime we have people who are contributing to the peace of somebody else, to the peace of a home, to the peace of a classroom, or whatever, praise that and celebrate that. That's worthy, because that kid who did that develops self-esteem. That adult who made that contribution develops self-esteem. That husband, that wife develops self-esteem when you catch them being good and comment, and you enjoy the goodness that takes place in these kind of relationships. So together, it's impactful. Excellent. Be together. Impact each other. But catch each other being good as well. And when you're together, you'll catch each other being good. If you're not together, you won't do that. So those 2 points kind of correlate to each other. You have to be together to catch each other being good. And be aware of it. Look for it. And then celebrate it. Okay? And here's the 9th point that I'd like to just share with you is this. Speak kindly to each other. Speak kindly. Speak well of each other. Speak with respect for each other and to each other and about each other. Make sure that you are an example of kindness, that you're an example of kind talking. You're an example of kind relationships. And you will have better self-esteem for that, but you'll teach it to your children. You'll teach it to your spouse. You'll teach it to your family. You'll teach it to your friends. Self-esteem is correlated to kindness. So when you're kind, you're exhibiting a sense of self-esteem. You're exhibiting a positive self-esteem. You like yourself. You're doing well. You have no reason to be unkind to other people. Now, maybe other people are unkind. That's true. But because you have self-esteem, you don't bite. You don't go there. You don't act unkindly to somebody who has been unkind to you when you have self-esteem. When you have self-esteem, you're acting on the basis of what's right and what's good for all and what's the proper thing to do for all. Making sure that your life is an example of goodness. Making sure that your speech is an example of kindness. You see, that's what self-esteem really comes down to. So, be kind. Think of yourself as a kind person. Develop kindness. Practice kindness. Exude kindness out of you. Share kindness with others. That's being complimentary. That's a way of being kind. Asking for permission. That's being kind. Asking for an apology or apologizing yourself. That's being kind. Forgiving. That's being kind. Speaking with a soft voice. That's being kind. Not being harsh and rough. You see, kindness comes in a lot of different ways. And you can be a kind person even though the people around you don't follow that pattern of kindness in itself. So, number 9, speak with kindness with each other, and particularly people who need self-esteem to be developed. If you know somebody that has low self-esteem, speak kindly to them. That will help them be encouraged and to think a little bit better about themselves because you have been thought well of them enough to speak kindly to them. That's what that all means, okay? And there's number 10. Give public praise and honor. Public praise and honor. Nothing's wrong with praising somebody. it's nice that you tell them that you appreciated what they do, or that you appreciated what they're doing, or you appreciate what they just said, or that you appreciate what they just accomplished. I mean, that's important. But say it publicly as well. Mom, speak to your friends publicly about how well you like your kids, and how well your kids have been behaving, and how well your kids are progressing, and how well your kids are acting. Speak publicly. Let your kids know that you're proud of them. Let your friends know that you're proud of your kids. Speak publicly. That's worth being talked about in public. Now, you correct in private, by the way. You criticize or you correct in private, but you praise in public. Okay? PP, praise in public. And that's what you want to make sure that you engage in, because you want your kids to hear what you say to other people in public. You want your kids to hear that. They may be standing next to you and they overhear you say it. On the other hand, they may hear it from another person by saying, look, your dad told me something about you, and he said he was very proud of you. And he told me how proud he was of you. You know, that's a nice thing to hear. I go back to an experience with my father, who praised me, but not personally, but he praised me to a friend of his. And it was weeks later that friend took me aside and said, here's what your dad told me about you. I just want you to know that. Your dad's very proud of you. Your dad's very happy with you, very satisfied with what you're doing. And the guy told me what my dad said about me on that particular occasion. It made a lot of impact on me. That made a tremendous impact on me. No, I wouldn't have known that. My dad didn't tell me. But he told somebody else, and that person told me, and that had the impact on my life. It would have been helpful had my dad told me. That would have been nice. That would have been a happy occasion. But he didn't. But he told somebody else, who then told me, and I'm thankful to that man who took me aside and gave me the words of a compliment that my dad had expressed. So you see, get out there and talk. Get out there and talk openly and publicly for the good that your children are doing, for the good that your wife is doing, for the good that your husband is doing, for the good that your family is doing, for the good that your friend is doing, for the good of a relative, what they're doing. Celebrate goodness, but celebrate it publicly so that people can share and be part of that, as well. So there we are. Those are the 10 points of building self-esteem. Very important that we learn to self-esteem. We learn it as we live it. And as we live it, we acquire it and we build it. And it becomes part of our life and becomes part of our lifestyle and how we then relate to other people, how we solve problems, how we deal with issues in our life, and so on. Now, self-esteem is part of a success story for people. People who have positive, strong self-esteem enjoy more activities in their life. They live more widely. They live more generally in a lot of different kind of activities and involvements. They're more active. They reach out. When you have self-esteem, you reach out. When you don't have self-esteem, you pull within. You isolate, you withdraw. But positive and strong self-esteem is also associated with healthy risks. Not risks that are unhealthy or high and crazy behavior. But positive self-esteem is associated with taking healthy risk, trying new things, trying some new developments, trying to learn some new lifestyle, trying to learn some new skills, trying to meet new people, going to new places, going to new activities. Self-esteem is always associated with taking on healthy risks. And it's also associated with life of an independent person and a person who solves problems. That's what self-esteem is all about. It encourages you to think of problems and solve them, to be willing to engage in a problem and solve it, to be willing to be open up to the ideas of what takes place in the life of the self-esteem person, to make sure that they are enjoying life, but enjoying the problems that come in their life and then solve them. Be open to them and solve them. You see, self-esteem people, positive self-esteem people, are open to change. They're open to new learning. They're open to new opportunities. They're open to new people in their life. They're open to new events in their life. The world opens when you have positive self-esteem. When you have low self-esteem, the world closes in and you withdraw and you isolate. Not good. So be the person of positive self-esteem. Now, we had a question that came in, and I want to just respond to that particular question of the person who called in and asked a question. And I'll respond to that particular question. It's on the screen in front of you. This comes from a person who is 31 years old, always lived alone, and always lived with low self-esteem. Did not have a family that encouraged them very much at all, and worked at a job that was with older people. So there wasn't a lot of interaction that would be age appropriate or age familiar. So this person was always alone. So the question is, how can you help me? What can I do? How can I approach this issue of building self-esteem in my life when I live alone, I'm not in a relationship, and I'm working with people who are not particularly helpful to me? What can I do? Well, there are a couple things you can do. Now, you can go back over my list. That's one thing you can do. Just go back over my list and pick up 2, 3, or 4 of those points and just live them out. Identify with them, accept them, put them on your refrigerator, and do them every day. Whatever some of those ideas are for you that you can somehow relate to. So go through that list. That's number one thing to do. I gave you 10 points. Find a couple of them that you can do. That will help you in your self-esteem. But here's another point. Be with people who have positive self-esteem. Go somewhere. I talked to a lady today who has low self-esteem and lives alone for many, many years. And she is going to a young adults social group on Wednesday nights. And that's opening the door for her to meet new people and to bring people into her life, many of whom are lonely themselves, but many of them are not. Many of them have positive self-esteem. And when she goes, she looks to talk to somebody who would encourage her, who would engage in conversation with her, who would engage in talk. You see, that's doing something. Go where people are, but go where people who have high self-esteem go and where they are. Churches is one situation. Clubs are another situation. Sometimes you have to change your work situation. Get a different job. Be where people are. That's a happy and work environment where people are more your age and are going through some of the circumstances that you're going through in life. Don't stay in a situation that's pulling you down and you're experiencing more and more isolation and more low self-esteem. Don't do that. Get out of there. Go work somewhere else. There's lots of opportunities, especially now, to find places to work where you can get something for yourself out of it. And we call that positive self-esteem. So change. Move. Get out of the apartment that you're in. Get out of the house you're in. Move. Go to some place where there are people who are more your age and more your kind and more that you will establish a relationship with you. Don't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's insanity. Change your circumstances in life. Change the people. Change the clubs. Change the organization. Change the church you go to. Change something so that you are exposing yourself to a situation that's more open and more positive. Then you'll learn from other people and you'll acquire from other people. And here's another point. Find a counselor you can talk to. Find a therapist you can talk to. Get somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you can just tell your story, that you can open up your life and just tell what your life was like over the course of the years and why you are the way you are now and how you can become a different person. And let a counselor help you take the steps of building bridges with other people and other situations that you're in. Let a counselor open some doors of opportunity for you. Come up with some suggestions and some ways that you can build a life that's going to be different than what you've lived up to this particular point in time. So you see, you can do some things. You're not stuck. You're not in a situation that is helpless and you're hopeless and you're helpless. No. See it from the point of view of opportunity and engage in the opportunities that are out there for you. It's a tough thing to start. You got a lot of courage to start it and to do it for the first time. But you know, the second time will be easier, and the third time will be easier, and the fourth time will even be easier. So start the process of building a better self-esteem in your life, okay? Hey, thanks for joining me today on the building blocks of self-esteem. The next time we meet, we're going to talk a little bit about confidence and being a person that you can enjoy yourself and reach out into a life of opportunity. So thanks for joining me today, and bye for now.